Welcome to Youth Perspectives on Harambee. Now, I'll be your moderator for today, and yes, my name is Mark Nangolo, and I am a research associate at Institute for Public Policy Research. This event was proudly brought to you, and that's by the Namibian Harambee Foundation, Institute for Public Policy Research, as well as the Embassy of Finland, Windhoek. Proudly sponsored by Criticise Telecom as well as the Warehouse Theatre. For the studio audience, please be aware that there is free Wi-Fi, proudly brought to you by Criticise Telecom. And the device you can link to is Criticise, and the password is big letters Harambee. Now can I please welcome Mr. Tangeni Padi, and that's to give us the welcoming remarks for today. Please do give him a hand of applause. Thank you.
Good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon.
I hope I don't have to tear up the entire speech, also in protest of what technology is trying to throw at us. Thank you, Martha. I think we are going to have a very interesting afternoon. I would like to welcome our co-sponsors, IPPR, the Finnish Embassy, Harambee Foundation, Criticise Telecom, and the Warehouse Theatre. Well, this is one of those events that make us exciting or excited, especially us at the Namibian. We love to have interactions, we love to have people talk about issues that affect them day in, day out. And especially this latest buzzword that our president has brought from East Africa, especially Kenya, called Harambee. And I think through that, we were encouraged to just sit tight and make things work despite what technology was trying to throw at us. This is about holding our leaders accountable. But more than that, it's about us getting involved in what we want for ourselves. And therefore, when people talk about the youth and Harambee, I think it is this kind of opportunity, it's this kind of moments where when we get together that we really try and send our message through to those leaders and put them to the test of what they have decided on. For my understanding, Harambee of many previous government plans is about making things happen. It's about getting things done. That's why if you go to the document, there is quite a lot of emphasis on timelines, what needs to be done when. The term youth appears quite several times throughout the document, although the main items on youth are Youth Enterprise Development Fund as well as the youth policy. But this also just reminded me over the weekend when I was at one shopping center, and some young woman with a baby came to me and said, "Can you please give me some bread? I'm hungry." No, she actually asked for money. "Can you give me some money? I would like to buy bread. I'm hungry." And then I said, "Well, I'm going to the shop, so let me get you the bread." When I came back, I couldn't see her. And just as I was driving off, she came by and said, "Oh, here I am. I didn't see you." And I said, "Here's the bread." She said, "No, I really had hoped you would give me some money because somebody else has already given me the bread." Now, I'm telling this story in the sense that we must always be conscious not to expect and accept, actually, handouts. And that is what sometimes I get from our leaders. When we design all these plans, we think handouts are great. We think if somebody asks for food, it's okay to just give them food, rather than to enable them, to get them to grow some food, or to make them some food, or to find them some food. So most of the time, I think human beings don't want the food on a silver platter. They would rather take the silver platter and turn it into some currency for the food. So I hope this discussion does get us to the thinking and the discussions about not just getting handouts, not just what we should be receiving, but rather how we will hold our leaders accountable in order to help us. Okay, I'm not a youth, but to help you, the youth, and the rest of our society to get things done for themselves. It's a pity that I am told the government, especially through State House, have not responded to our invitation, but I'm convinced somewhere, somehow they are part of this audience. What with technology, I'm sure somewhere technology has made sure that they will be part of this discussion. So let us not feel that our discussions are falling on deaf ears. Somewhere, somehow, the message will be delivered. To the panelists, welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you in advance for stimulating these discussions. Thanks and welcome to you all, especially to you, the audience.
And that's to Mr. Ampadi from the Namibian. Moving on with the program, I will be giving you a few introductory remarks, after which we'll be having a little Harambee Prosperity Plan video that we've taken to the streets just to get a few of the insights from the youth and what it is that they have to say. And then we're going to be having some poetry by Mr. Ashton Berry, and then short remarks from the panelists on my right. Now, Harambee itself, in the word, means pulling together in the same direction. Earlier in the year, we had His Excellency, Dr. Hage Geingob, come through from the State of the Nation address, and he stipulated what it is that the plan has. The plan itself has 5 pillars, mainly focusing on to 4, which is social progression, which looks at hunger, poverty, vocational education training, looking into economic advancement that looks at youth enterprise development, looking into infrastructure development, which looks into the resources like ICTs, water and energy, and effective governance and service delivery, looking into 2 sub-pillars: accountability, transparency, improved performance, as well as service delivery. Now, there's the 5th pillar, which is international relations and cooperation. It does not really say much, or it's not really detailed in the plan itself, but nonetheless, today's objective is to analyze the Harambee Prosperity Plan, is to perceive the youth's views, as well as to promote freedom of speech, getting youth to ask the question of, what does Harambee have for me? I'm joined to my right, like I said, by the panelists. We have Emma Theophilis, who is the Deputy Speaker of the Children's Parliament. We have Mr. Max Vaillant, who is a researcher at the Institute for Public Policy Research. We have Lauren Davidson, who is an economist at the Chamber of Mines, and Mr. Vincent Shutukeni, who is a spokesperson of NANSO. Now, getting into the mix of things, we have a video that I'm sure is going to be showing right now at the back behind or on the screens. And we just went to the street to ask the youth, what do they think about Harambee? What do they feel Harambee has for them? Or do they even know what Harambee is? So please stay tuned for the video.
Harambee Plan is a movement that was established by the current president Hage Geingob, which I think was an awesome movement because it has to do about they will tackle issues like corruption and infrastructure.
Fighting poverty is actually a great idea because the reason why crime rate is high in Namibia is because of poverty. So if they fight poverty, that means the crime rate also reduces.
I think though sometimes these plans have no concrete or the concrete plan is missing, so that somebody who's really an unskilled laborer cannot be talked about when you talk about job creation and poverty alleviation. I think a person who does not have the skills to work behind a computer or to write or read actually needs to be brought to a level first that he can be actually eligible for those jobs that are being created. And I think that's more a place to look at in terms of poverty reduction and job creation.
For our country to really progress, we need to fight corruption, and then fighting corruption just goes hand in hand with alleviating poverty, because there have been quite a few instances where people that are supposed to be getting help, the help isn't getting to them. Why? Corruption.
This corruption in this country is killing our people. You know, people are suffering in the street. We don't have money. People, they're just building like what they want to do for the parliament now. How much is it? Maybe 2.something billion. And while we are here hungry, and people, they don't have water. You go to the rural area, there's no water. Some of the village, they don't have water. You understand what I mean? People, they are suffering in our country. So the government should do something here when it's coming to poverty eradication. They must do something so that this country must be a better country for everybody. It's not only for the veterans, it's for all of us. All of us, we are all Namibians. Yeah. They're always talking about these veterans, whatever, they must get money. Yeah. It's a free country now. We also want the money.
I think there's a lot of hunger and stuff. And people are not living in a good condition. Some of them have nothing to eat in a day. Some of them have no electricity at home, water. They have no how to pay.
Most of the people need houses, and some don't have like roofs over their heads like the homeless people. And I think the government should like open a center for people, for like homeless people, so that they can like live there, eat there, just provide for them. Because now that it's winter, some are getting cold, they don't have blankets and stuff like that. So what I think is they should, like the government should like try to supply a center for the people who doesn't have homes and food and stuff like that, just to provide them with their needs.
It was the infrastructure and the development that is the most important to me, because I feel from experience being in Europe, traveling within a city, it is way more easier if it is a little bit more organized. And I think our transport system within a city is detrimental. We are relying on taxis who are not really doing their jobs in terms of non-corrupted ways. I think they're very corrupt and very restrictive in many ways. And I think if we could just grow in terms of building a better bus system, a better, maybe even an underground traveling system, people would not have to work for only transport money.
Again, thank you so very much to our partners, the Namibian Hansara Foundation, IPPR, Embassy of Finland, and our proud sponsors, Paratus Telecom and Warehouse, for making that all available, as well as the event. Can we please have Mr. Ashwin Berry come through with his short piece of poetry? Please do give him a hand of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? Now, normally when I perform poetry, I make sure that I've memorized it and I come and I give you a performance and it's a big hoopla. However, when I was constructing this poem, I literally went and asked different Namibian youth what they think about the Harambee Prosperity Plan. I was fortunate enough to have the good people from the Namibian furnish me with the plan itself in order for me to acquaint myself with it. And after that, I just went out and I got people's opinions, because I didn't feel that I could possibly be in a place to say, I'm just going to give you my opinion when this is about the youth in general. So I got opinions right up until yesterday, and as a result, I will be reading the poem to you. I hope I'll be able to translate their feelings and emotions as clearly as possible to you. Don't get it wrong, I did write the poem, but based on their stories and experiences and their understanding of the Harambee Prosperity Plan. I have named this short piece, Fun Facts. Fun. The word most commonly used when one seeks to describe modern youth and our priorities. Fact. This is not an accurate description of our virtues, but more a sign of the times. When we don't have hope, we settle for fun. Settle for fun. We also do that. Give in to temporary pleasures which chip away at our forevers. We settle for fun. Fact, there is more to us than just being your children. We are also the parents of the future generations, and we are aware that when they look back at us, they should see our faces, not our backs. Because eventually we will need to stop looking at you, even though your only understanding of our story is that we were liberated, and since then all we've had is fun. Fact. Harambee is a plan that can only be seen through by us, the youth, because, fact, we will be there in 2030, hopefully considered to be wise enough to have more on our plates than just fun. In fact, I wonder if we will feel entitled to power because we are here now and the next generation won't face what we face, even though they carry our faces, our blood and genetics, and the only hope for this generation. I wonder if we will discard mortality as a factor and run every sector based on experience as opposed to relevance. I wonder if the word fun will still be relevant in describing the youth, or we will just call them decadent because they were born in a different decade with our faces, our blood, genetics, and the only hope for the next generation. Fact. The Harambee Plan plans to eradicate poverty and move the people towards prosperity and equal opportunity, a blend of social awareness and our president's preparedness to execute his duties. Fact, the importance of leaving no one behind should also mean that we can trust the ones leading us, the ones holding our hands, guiding us towards a brighter land of the brave, brave enough to fight corruption in the system, brave enough to listen to the youth who aren't just having fun. Fact. A plan like that needs monetary backing. We are talking growth in infrastructure and eliminating poverty in all its forms. But it seems that not enough of our leaders have our president's proclivity to tackle this as a Namibian citizen. Allow me to explain. If one was a Namibian citizen, they would know that a new parliament that costs billions is literally saying that prosperity is not for all because my need for an education and a better quality of life cannot be prioritized over aesthetics. Fact. There is no more time for fun because poverty is a fact. We have experienced it. So every time we are told that all we do is fun, then that's someone making fun of our facts. Fact. Harambee is Kiswahili for pulling together in the same direction. Fact, it's a plan that can build a better nation. Fact, a plan is a plan. Until we come together to make it work, then it becomes more than a plan. Then it becomes a way of life. Pulling together in the same direction. Leadership that is not based on re-election. I said leadership that is not based on re-election. With fathers teaching their sons that attacking women does not make you a man. Refuse to allow gender-based violence and inequality to be attached to us like a brand. Teach the girls that anything that is earned for is worked for. Anything that is worked for is planned for. And everything we wish for is prayed for. Namibian child, your dreams are valid and your existence has its purpose outside society's expectations. I repeat, Namibian child, your dreams are valid. And your purpose goes beyond society's expectations. But here's the thing. I'm not blind to the facts. If it's about no one getting left behind, we need the involvement of every Namibian in the creative process of building a better nation. Let's teach pride in identity without allowing pride in identity to separate us tribally or racially. Let us teach the youth that they are not just a word on a plan, but the only chance of the plan being effective. Let us teach the leaders not to get drunk on power, because understanding and working for the people tirelessly is the only way to leadership sobriety. Let us teach, oh yes, let us teach, build schools, build minds, because that's how you build dreams, and that's the only way a nation's dreams can be achieved. Engraved in stone, written in the stars, only then will the Harambee Plan be ours. But seeing as our realities are out of your reach, let us teach the facts. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Ashwin for giving us that very powerful speech or piece of poetry. Now, next up in the program, we have short remarks from the panelists. They will each be receiving 5 minutes, and that's to be giving their own critical views about what they feel the youth is going to receive from the plan. Now, do keep in mind that this is all going via social media under the hashtag YoNam. And for the studio audience, a reminder that you can connect to the device apparatus under the password Harambee big letters. We are going to start from Emma, and she will be receiving 5 minutes as all the way through to Vincent. And afterwards, we'll be having a Q&A or a question and discussion where each and every one of you can come through. Reminder to our viewers via the live stream that you can come through social media, whether it be the Namibian Hansard Foundation or IPPR, with your questions, and we will sure to be giving them to the panelists. Emma, whenever you're ready.
All right. Thank you very much, Martha. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much for being here so we can dissect this plan, this wonderful plan. So as introduced, the Deputy Speaker of the Children's Parliament. So my contribution will be mainly based on basically the social progression pillar, as well as how it affects children and subsequently the youth of our country. So of course, as a lot of people have spoken about, the plan is a complementary plan. But what is this plan complementary to? It's complementary to plans such as the Vision 2030, Vision 2030 agenda, as well as Agenda 2030 by the United Nations with the SDG goals, Agenda 2063 with the AU, as well as, for example, the regional indicative strategic development plans for every region. So we're looking at a plan that has sort of encompassed all these other plans for it to sort of be the guiding tool to ensuring that action does happen and that there is something happening on the ground. So looking at the first thing, hunger and poverty. What does this mean for a Namibian child? Hunger and poverty means that a Namibian child is sort of forced to go to school on an empty stomach, but still is expected to excel in their schoolwork. This child is forced to walk a hella distance for them to get to school and then still find a toilet that's not working or a school that has no water. This clearly encompasses how there's poverty at the home level all the way to the school that you're attending. So this child is around poverty 24/7. The health center that they go to, there's hardly anyone to assist them, and they're scared, for example, to ask on information when it comes to, for example, sexual reproductive health or anything in that regard. So we're looking at a situation where it's a reality in the ground. But when it comes to a Namibian child, we're seeing how in the plan it talks about how, for example, we're going to have food banks. But as much as this food banks would feed the children and feed these young people in this nation, why are we not looking at situations where children are not being able to get food at their schools because of the school feeding programs that are in shambles? If we're having a situation where our school feeding programs already are not well run, and there isn't a lot of commitment from the staff from the school, these food banks would act as, let's say, for example, another perpetuation of situations where it's not open for everyone to get food or not everyone to access food. I really, really appreciate that there is this plan to have food banks. And I know all over the world, there's a lot of emphasis on allowing people to have access to food. This food banks, for example, as the plan is stated in the plan, will be one in Windhoek. There will be one in 2 other areas to be identified. However, we need to look at a situation where the food banks might be more effective if they are community-based. If you have a situation where the town of Okahanja can have a small food bank catering for people in Okahanja, then what you have is local communities, young people in that community who are unemployed, volunteering or sort of semi-volunteering in the food banks, because in the plan it says they'll be getting some type of stipend for their commitment to working at the food bank. But then you also give a responsibility to the private sector, the shops, the businessman, the entrepreneur there that has the means to be able to provide the food bank with food and have an all-around sort of commitment from that society to feed their own hungry and their own poor who can't afford food. So I think in that way we need to decentralize these food banks. There needs to be involvement from every sector in society, young people coming on board, the private sector, as well as regional councils giving manpower or guidance in how these food banks are operated. And then moving on to, for example, sanitation. Like I said before, this child comes to a school where they cannot even access a proper flushing toilet. Of course, the plan is very explicit into land delivery and house delivery and so on, decent housing. But what this means to the Namibian child is, if my school, which is a central part of my education and my future, cannot have a flushing toilet, what is the hope of that toilet coming into my home? So we need to start looking at how this plan would cater for already standing structures such as hospitals and clinics, and especially schools, where there aren't these provisions of proper sanitary conditions, and then move into this idea of housing and land delivery. Of course, let the mass housing program continue. Let there be a sort of parallel plans or parallel activities happening to ensure that sanitation happens. But we need to start in already existing structures such as our schools to allow for proper proper situations where children can access proper sanitation even at school. And then we're looking at the next part of the pillar that speaks about infant and maternal mortality. I think when we live in a country where there is a lot of teenage pregnancy, and there is little information on how mothers can care for themselves when they're pregnant, already there is a hurdle when it comes to curbing or eradicating infant and maternal mortality. If we look at, for example, if there is no situation of access to information, we do get sex education in school, right? Yes. However, is it straightforward? Is it frank? Are you able to go to a clinic to actually get information on how you can protect yourself or abstain from sex or anything like that? We need to be more proactive. And this plan needs to find mechanisms to have people already in structures to be more proactive, to rather prevent, rather than try to come up with solutions. So when it comes to infant and maternal mortality, I think when we have a situation of teenage pregnancy, there needs to be emphasis put on our young children and girls in our schools, especially in the life skills period, where they are taught about the skills of life and actually taught about how they can protect themselves and how they can get more information when it comes to information like this. I think only then we can have more involvement of young people and children in solutions. So I think the plan outlines a good way into having more staff at clinics, having more people that are able to assist these people. Yes, but we need more of that. So quickly, let me just move to the VTCs. I think it's very important that we have skills and development. So of course, we need to change the image of vocational training centers. They need to become more competitive. We need to have more people wanting to go to vocational training centers instead of tertiary institutions like the ones we have. So just finally, I'd like to say, in the plan, it even speaks about that people don't eat and drink plans and policies that are well drafted. People need action. We need everyone to come on board. And my question to the youth is, what is your role? What is your responsibility? This plan is already here. It has been drafted.
Thank you,
what
Emma.
is your contribution?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Max, before you continue, panelists, please be reminded that it's 5 minutes. Please, 5 minutes is a lot. And we have more than enough time to dissect into further comments in the Q&A. Max, please continue.
I've got my timer running here, so I'll try.
Thank you.
Guys, if you have something to write with, can you just take out a pen and paper or something, or a cell phone? I just want you to write down 2 numbers for me. So just take out your pens or whatever. I'll give you a second. You can have 20 seconds on my time. That's fine. All right, so the numbers I want you to take down is 82, 82, and 68. Just write those down. We'll get to those.
All right.
This is perfect because I'm actually taking off right where Emma stopped. I'm interested in our political culture, how we talk about politics, how we engage with politics, us as young people. And the question of whether we engage with politics, because we're often told by those people involved that us youth, we don't care about things. Like Ashwin said, we're seen as just having fun and we're not serious about things. But the word engage in politics, it implies a conversation, and too often no one has really engaged with us. For so many years, no one has talked to us, so of course we haven't talked back. We haven't wanted to get involved in politics. It just makes sense to me. And I think that Harambee is actually a really good opportunity for us to get involved, like Emma said, because it gives us a chance, and it's designed, whether intentionally or not, they designed it in a way that really gives us a good way to get involved with it. What do I mean by that? It's not really new, the plan, in terms of content, right? Emma already pointed out, it's all from Vision 2030, National Development Plans, etc. But I don't know if you've seen the Vision 2030, this is it. I don't know if anyone's ever read it. I haven't. It's super long. It's really hard to get into. And Harambee is really, really different, right? This is where the numbers come in that I gave you, 82 and 68. This afternoon, if you just Google Harambee Plan, the first link will be the PDF of the document. You can go to page 82, and it's just all of the targets, all of the things that they've promised to do is right there. If you're a nerd like me, you can print it out, put it up as a poster in your bedroom, but you can just look at it and see what they've promised. Even better, page 68, is just a table of the stuff that they've promised with when they're going to do it, right? So it says a list of everything they'll do, when they'll do it, and who's responsible for it. And that's where you come in, because it's quite interesting. I mean, obviously, a bunch of it's quite boring. There's all these reports that have to be finalized, things that don't interest us. But there's a target that 310 schools need to be electrified by the end of Harambee period. That applies to us. We're getting a train, apparently, from Katutura to Central Windhoek, and trains from Rehoboth to Windhoek. That's really great for young people. I know that I was often stuck at home because it's expensive to take a taxi somewhere else. So you can't move around that much. By December this year, the plan says, all of us, you can register a business online. All of us youth, you know, we're entrepreneurs, we're hustlers, we try to get stuff done. And rather than go to 10 offices, now you can just go online, click on something, and you've got your own business running. So in theory, that's really good. We've got all these goals that we should be interested in. So we can actually quickly check their progress. There's about 50 targets or so that have a month attached to them. And 15 of them I actually do this month. Right? That's, what's that, almost half or a quarter. So let's just do a quick test. Let's use the passing grade of 40%. I'd like to see a show of hands. Who of you think that the government this month will have done 40% of their targets? Does anyone here think the government will have completed 40% of their targets? Just put up your hand. That's a very interesting result. Does anyone here think they'll have less than 40% of their targets completed by this month?
Oh, wow.
All right. Well, I don't know the answer because the month's not over. They have some time. I can tell you that last month, in fact, in April, they already missed some deadlines. The new performance agreements for ministers were supposed to be online for all of us to see what they'd agreed to do. That hasn't happened. The food bank is supposed to happen this month, and we all know where that's going. They don't have a building yet. Of course, there's about 13 other plans that they've said they'll finish this month, so they have some time, but, you know, we'll see at the end of the month how they've really done. So the way they talk about it is Harambee, it's pulling together, right? And we work together, we support government in getting this plan done. What I think that should mean is that if we work for the plan, we criticize it. And if we want to support government, we should hold them accountable. Because, you know, they talked about these numbers. There's 37% of the population is 18 to 35 years old. More than half of us are under the age of 30, right? We're the majority. In 20 years' time, that basically means we're going to be running the show, us here in this room, right? Like the guy sitting next to you could be the prime minister. This lady's probably going to be the president. And what that means is that the plan is for us. You know, we can be blunt about this. The people who wrote this plan, in a couple decades, they're going to be dead. But we're going to be living through the consequences of how well this plan was implemented. So it is really about us. It's written for our future. And it's written in a way that challenges us to check it out and hold them accountable that it's done. So let's just do that.
Thank you so much, Max. Next up, we'll be hearing from Lauren Davidson, an economist at the Chamber of Mines. Lauren, you can continue.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all you young and friendly faces around here. Today I will be focusing specifically on how the Harambee Plan can create economic opportunities for our youth, and also how we should perhaps engage and approach those, and what I foresee as potential challenges or bottlenecks to those economic opportunities that the plan could create for us. So in the plan, it states that approximately, as Max just said just now, 36.8% of the Namibian population falls under the age group from 15 to 24 years, which is classified as the youth category. Our youth unemployment rate currently stands at 39.2% of total total unemployment of the whole country, and now that is a significant amount. And it is with this in mind, also bearing that we are the leaders of our future, but with this high unemployment as well, this is why the government has also focused to make our segment of the population such a big priority in this plan. And it is pledged in the plan to, I quote it says, it will enable an environment for private sector entrepreneurial startups and growth-orientated SMEs, as well as to facilitate the establishment of youth-owned enterprises. Okay. So I'd like to, I will be addressing specific things. The first thing that I want to address is that the policy which is target or focused on entrepreneurship development, particularly among youth in Namibia. I strongly believe that this, because we live in a culture whereby, or in a business environment, culture whereby the youth, we believe that it's okay, we're dependent on the public sector and private sector to provide us with jobs, but all we expect from that is just to get given a position and a paycheck at the end of the day. There's very little incentive for meaningful ownership within that position and to move forward and to make a career. So I believe that this policy, which is addressing the entrepreneurship side, will greatly contribute to changing the rhetoric of our business culture in Namibia. Secondly, the prioritization to increase the standard and repertoire of our vocational education training centers in Namibia, and also to loosen visa regulations on specialized skills, will greatly assist in our skills development and the leverage thereof. Currently, throughout Namibia, the standard and level of skills produced by these vocational training educations do not match the requirements of the private sector, and I speak on behalf of every single industry. So, or they're completely misaligned altogether. The commitment to upgrade and increase the level or the standard of skills that are produced by these vocational education centers, I believe will help significantly diversify the local skills pool and will also advance general entrepreneurship amongst our youth. The other thing is that vocational skills are largely, they're not taken as great importance, and I think we need to harness this because there's great potential for that in our country. Easier inflow of foreign specialized skills in which a culture of transfer is instituted, so whereby we can efficiently harness the skills of an expert and learn from them, will also greatly assist in leveraging our skills potential. Can someone?
Continue.
All right.
Continue,
Okay. Then my next point entails access to housing and land as a means of wealth creation for the youth. We all know how hard it is, especially for young individuals such as ourselves, to even think of considering or owning property in Namibia. unless we are privileged enough to inherit from someone. I feel it to be a plain hindrance in the pursuit of wealth creation through such an investment, not only for oneself, but also for planning to provide for future families and so forth. The strategy to provide increased access to land and housing bodes well for general youth advancement, because enhanced access to property for us means that...
Lauren, need to wrap up.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say that it will really help our economic advancement. And just quickly, one stumbling block that I see to all of this, there are 3 that are mentioned in the plan, but I'm quickly going to focus on one of them, and that is water. I feel that in the plan, this issue has not been addressed properly. The authorities have said that we're going to run out of water any time between August and December this year, and just to bring it down to the harsh reality of it, is that we cannot implement any of these grand objectives if we do not have water.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you so much to Lauren Davidson from the Chamber of Mines. Next up, we have Mr. Vincent Shumutukeni, who's a spokesperson of NANSO. Vincent.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. I've been honored with the privilege of speaking last. I hope that also means I get a few extra minutes.
Not a chance.
I'm actually humbled to see a large turnout of students here, because myself being somebody who's been an advocate of education, and that is something that has been at my heart for a number of years now. When I read the HPP, I prioritized on, or predominantly focused on education, but obviously not exclusively. And we know, for those who read a lot of international journals, international law and human rights law, there's the 4 A's when it comes to education. That is availability, accessibility, adaptability, and acceptability. So they say for education to be meaningful in any society, in any nation, it must be accessible. In access, we talk about it being non-discriminatory, equal, accessible to everybody, and priority on marginalized groups. Availability talks obviously of infrastructure, and that it should be provided for free by the governments. Acceptability speaks to the content, and obviously the content being relevant and culturally appropriate. And finally, there's the acceptability. No, that's content. That's the 4 A's. So I think that is the best tool to use when we look at education and at the plan. So I read this plan looking at whether this HPP actually addresses those 4 A's. And I encourage everybody to go home and also do the same. The plan itself, generally, yes, it is a good plan. It's very different, especially when it comes to its monitoring and evaluation. That is something that we give credit to. But obviously, as much as we praise, we also need to question. And that is what I intend to do. We look at the pillars. I think the second pillar, economic advancement, deals with education. It emphasizes on improving the quality of tertiary education in Namibia. That is well and good, of course. But we then also ask ourselves, at the same time when we're saying we should improve the quality of tertiary education, it's the same time the government is actually underfunding our tertiary institutions. It's on the sad note that some of our tertiary institutions, UNAM to name, had to cancel some of its major projects which actually contribute towards the quality. So we ask ourselves, are we really all on the same page? I know it also talks of improving quality of the education by increasing the pass rate of grade 10 and 12. That is a discussion for another day, but I think quality itself involves the various factors. We talk about infrastructure development, we talk about content of the education, we talk about materials, and I think Emma also talked about school feeding programs and all of that. So those are the questions we ask. Is it sufficient? Because that is the only part in the whole plan that emphasizes on quality of education. So we ask ourselves, is that enough? The third pillar, infrastructure development, is it? But I think my colleague here spoke a lot about the skills and training, which yes, we are very happy that emphasis has been placed on it actually greatly, more than other forms of education. And also ridding it of that name, it being a second option for tertiary institutions. We are happy that the plan is obviously to extend these vocational training institutions across all 14 regions of the country. We actually had a conversation with the minister, and she said the plan would be to have each region focus on whatever is in the, for example, the coastal towns that have uranium and zinc can focus on that, on the different skills in the region. That is good. And I guess the minister has a lot of work cut up for. We talk about, but one that really concerned me was in the fourth pillar, infrastructure development. I see it notes that all schools are to be electrified. That is excellent news, because we do know that obviously with technology, the world is growing smaller, and e-learning is also coming to the forefront of education. But I'm actually quite surprised that when it comes to infrastructure, only electrification of schools was mentioned, because it's well and good to electrify a school, but how do you electrify? I'm not an engineer, but I've read enough to know that you can only electrify a standing structure. So I think infrastructure was supposed to emphasize more, firstly, on those schools without any structures and those with dilapidated structures. The truth is, we've seen our own governor, Honorable Sirka Osiku from Kavango East. I think it was in one of the newspapers where the Minister of Education promised to build especially a school for the San community in the Bravo settlement in Pungu constituency, and until now they have not delivered on that. And that is actually us failing on our international obligations when it comes to marginalized schools. Excuse me?
To wrap up.
Oh, I was just getting in the conversation. But those are the questions. You say, I want us to question as much as we praise. And thanks to the Namibian also, I need to mention, especially the investigative department, they also revealed to us, for those who can't go there physically to see, they revealed to us visually how the schools look. I think we saw the reports in the schools in Swakopmund and also those in Kunene. So I think as much as we praise, we need to. So as we leave, I see my time is up. As we leave, I would ask everybody the 4 A's: accessibility, adaptability, availability, and accessibility. Go and read the plan for yourself and just ask yourself, as you're reading it, does it actually address and speak towards these goals in achieving meaningful education? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vincent. It is the time for the Q&A. Now, how this is going to work is that we're going to have 3 questions at a time. And the panelists can decide, the question, or the audiences, the studio audience can decide whether to direct it to a specific panelist, or if you want each panelist to dwell on. Please, a reminder, panelists, let's not dwell onto the answers. You still have your closing remarks at the end of the day. So as well, a reminder as well to the viewers via live stream that you can come through on social media, and that's under the hashtag YONAM, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Facebook, or any other social media out there. We'll definitely be listening. Can I just see who's going to be helping me on the floor to be passing around the mics? Okay, we have the man in the blue. With the dreads. Anyone else? Okay, we can start with the questions. Okay, we have one question here. Can you please just stand up when you're asking your question and be as clear and precise as possible?
All right, my name is Jeffrey Mkobi. I work for Base FM, and I'm also like a young youth journalist. And my question is for Emma. You mentioned that you are the Deputy Speaker, right, of the Children's Parliament. Does the Namibian government take children's policies that are derived from the Children's Parliament serious, or do they take it as just the children or the youth rather debating and making policy decisions for fun?
Emma, would you like to address that now?
Yeah, I can do that.
Great.
Yes, thank you very much for your question. So obviously the Children's Parliament was sort of a brainchild by the former Speaker, Dr. Theobald Ngurira. As much as it doesn't have an act passed by Parliament to sort of give it a mandate, it still acts as an advisory body to Cabinet and the senior Parliament, if I may say. But the Children's Parliament then is made up of young people coming from all over the country and coming to discuss what challenges they have. So what I can attest to you is that as an advisory body, the reason why we have grade 10 repeaters and not grade 10 students getting out of the system and going to NAMCOL or whatever, it's because of a recommendation that was made by the second session of the Children's Parliament between 2009 and 2010. And the reason why in the Child Care and Protection Act today, there is a provision to allow for a children's advocate is because of recommendation by the Children's Parliament. And then thirdly, the reason why orphans or vulnerable children or children with disabilities got $50 added onto their grant was because of a suggestion by the Children's Parliament. So as much as it's an advisory body, I think our government can decide to take our recommendations or not. But I think from our side and our perspective, we try to push as much as possible to give tangible data or sort of situations to prove that back in the regions or back in the constituencies, there is a problem with children, and it does take some of those things seriously. There is a lot of things that we still need, for their response, but I think so far they do take our recommendations seriously.
Thank you very much. Can we have the next question, please? Okay, we have a young lady to my left.
My name is Iftish, and I would like
Can you just speak up a bit? We can't really hear you. Yeah.
I would like to know how the HPP is different from the National Development Fund and 5. How is that any different?
Is that for all the panelists or specific? Okay, great.
Good afternoon. My name is Petrus. My question is a bit of a mouthful, but I'll use the word Harambee, which in some of our Eastern African countries also means sharing. And by that meaning that as youth, we cannot develop without sharing. And sharing in terms of economic, social, and all the other aspects, and also including the regions. For example, you cannot have a system that's working if the only development that's going on is in Windhoek. And you cannot have any strategies without actually involving people that are affected by these strategies. For example, principals having meetings to discuss curriculum, but not their plans not being taken into consideration, and so forth into other things. And in terms of economy, is that once you actually have an economy of a group of people who are empowered and enriched, that's the only way for the Namibian youth to actually develop their entrepreneurship. Because otherwise you'll be selling your t-shirt for $200 that no youth can afford. And so we should really take this as a step towards actually fulfilling this, that Harambee should mean that everyone should be involved. And also, but in terms of that, my question to the panelists is actually, this has actually been put before by the previous two presidents that we had, like in terms of decentralization. But till this day, UNAM and Polytech and many of the ministries in the country still report and have most of their financial accountability in Windhoek. So how do we solve that?
Thank you so much, Petrus. Panelists, can we have your response to the last two questions?
I can start off if you want. In terms of how HPP differs from the National Development Plans, not too much actually. I mean, and the government itself has said this is a focusing kind of exercise. We want to pick the biggest goals from our previous plans and we want to just make sure that we implement the most important ones. There's some small differences. We've scaled back our electricity generation plans, for example. NDP4 said we want to have 750 megawatts by 2017. HPP says we want to have 600 megawatts by 2020, which is a good sign for me that we've actually scaled back and said, look, let's see what's realistic in those previous plans and just kind of refocus on what's most important. As for the questions which the gentleman in the corner addressed, there's really a lot of issues. I think two key ones are the issue of decentralization and also kind of a broad-based growth, that we all get involved in this and that. It's no use having entrepreneurs selling $200 t-shirts if no one can buy them. That's not an easy fix to either of the two solutions. Definitely with decentralization, that's up for people to demand their rights in a decentralized setting. There's a lot of statutes, a lot of bodies at regional levels, and if people start demanding more from those bodies, then they'll have to do more. That's one approach.
Thank you, Max. Anyone from the panelists want to address the question?
Maybe on the first question, I'm not sure. Maybe on the first question, I think it's a very good question. Here are the plans are actually, I've read most of Namibia's major documents, and I must say honestly, most of them are copy and paste. Like the NDP's 3 to 4, it's actually the same. The difference is, you see, like NDP4 also actually speaks, if we read it, it also speaks of vocational education being made a priority. Exact same words are in HPP. The only difference is that the HPP has more strict monitoring and evaluation, and if each one has a champion, like if you see on the side it says the minister has to champion it, hopefully that will then provide the desired change. But I think mostly when it comes to the monitoring and evaluation, those are one of the huge differences in the documents.
Thank you, Vincent.
Emma? Yeah. Maybe I can touch a little bit on the second question on decentralization. I think it's important that as a nation we become more involved with the policies that our governments are coming up with. And this includes having access to information, and this feeds into good governance, into transparency, accountability, and so on. These people would not know that in this region there isn't a representative from the office of the Prime Minister if no one says or no one approaches their councillors. Many times we ignore the councillors and the constituency officers because we don't think they're important enough. But they are the people on the ground representing us. So we need to give those people more power and more attention and hold them more accountable so that they're able to decentralize that communication that they're well informed. So we need more participation from ourselves to actually hold these people accountable. Then the services and the information can be decentralized.
Thank you, Emma. Lauren?
Yeah, I think my three colleagues have basically covered it, but I just also wanted to add into what Emma was saying, in that the Harambee Prosperity Plan, really, it's a flexible plan. So while there are certain targets and objectives to be achieved, I know that the Office of the President has actually gone and consulted with various sort of private sector associations and so on, and they've gone and said, look, what programs do you have already in place that can help us to achieve those objectives and targets? And I think that this is something that we should all really take ownership of, and that because Harambee calls for involvement at all levels. So we should look at what is in place and how we can improve that and make that better.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Just to remind everyone as well in the studio audience as well as the viewers that you can go take to social media with the hashtag YONAM and post your questions for the panelists. Can we have a question from that side? There's a lady. Yes, you can go.
My name is Laura and I'm from DHPS. And I have a question to all the panelists. Since we are a lot of young people here and we're obviously interested since we're here, I just have a question. How can we contribute to this plan? Or is there anything that we can start doing now already, not only in 20 years?
Thank you so much. Can we have another question before we go to the answers? I think that's a bit of a mouthful.
Okay. My name is Faith Bio, and I am from the Namibian University of Science and Technology. I am also the Vice Chairperson of the NANSO branch at our institution. Well, I'd first like to applaud all the associate sponsors for this initiative in trying to bring the youth towards the platform of creating caucus and coming up with ideas as to the problems that we have within our country, and including the youth in what we have in the Harambee Prosperity Plan. One of the panelists mentioned something that is very important, which is water. The country is going through a water crisis right now. And what I think, or one of my suggestions or recommendations for government is that we should bring in specialized individuals that know exactly how to go about in terms of water crises in countries such as Africa. And as Emma mentioned, that sanitation is very important for the Namibian youth, and that correlates with water. So once we have a better plan as to what we will do with the water crisis, I think that the problem of sanitation will also be alleviated. I thank you.
Thank you. I think that was more of a statement, so we can give a report to her. Before we go to the third question, can we just have the panelists come in for the one question and maybe comment on the recommendation that was given?
Okay, so I'm eager to answer this question. I think it's very important as young people we become proactive. How many of you have read this plan? Look at the numbers. We need to start to engage ourselves with the information. How many of you know that the education curriculum is under review? We need to know this information. What I can say to you, how you can start getting involved in making sure this plan becomes a success, learn, research, acquaint yourself with knowledge so that you're able to critically analyze these documents and have an opinion and call the office of the president, call your counselor, do whatever you can, go on social media. I'm sure everyone is on social media. Create a platform to constantly be on the case of our parliamentarians and our politicians to hold them accountable. Nothing will happen if you don't say something should happen. So you acquaint yourself with information, and that will be the first step to making sure this plan becomes a success and that Namibia becomes more prosperous.
I don't think anybody could say it better than Emma has. By you being here, you are actually already contributing, because what we would want is to encourage everybody to become a conscious citizen. Once you are conscious, you become active, and then you contribute. It's not for anybody to force you into which area you fall. You become conscious politically, socially, economically, and then you will, as an individual, see what meaningful role you can play. But also, by the fact that I see you wearing a school uniform, the fact that you are being educated, we need to understand that education is the tool which we must use to emancipate Namibia. So the fact that you are in school, you are contributing.
Thank you so much, Vincent. Next, Lauren, would you like to add? Is it fine? Should we move on?
I think I'll pass on this round.
Okay,
Thanks.
great.
Yeah,
Can we
I
have the
think
last
fifth.
question? Can I encourage the audience that are in the middle here to say something, please? Can we have the mic to this beautiful lady there in the back? I can see her, yes. Can you?
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Ethel, and I'm from Academia Secondary School. The one thing that I wanted to note was the fact of the vocational training that went throughout most of the panelists. It's the fact that we as the youth, we're not saying or trying to put vocational training down. It's like, it's not something that's important. But the fact is, if I was to get a certificate or something in this vocational training, what is the chance that I could be employed in Windhoek? You understand? Because most of this vocational training, I'm gonna go there, and then what's next? I can't even stay with my family. So it's basically me wasting my years. At the end of the day, you see people getting degrees, they're going to UNAM, they're having whatever, and they're still unemployed. So why is it that I should do this? And the government knows that going to school, opening a book, me studying for hours doesn't work for everybody. So if the education system is being evaluated, let them also include every group. Let them say, okay, there are the people that can work with books, and there are the people that can't work with books. Let us get degrees that help a person work physically and say, okay, no, I've done this through high school, I can get a degree in it, or not just a certificate that hinders me. And then at the end of the day, when I want to get employment, when I want to start a business, everybody's like, oh, you couldn't even get a grade 12 certificate, what are you talking about?
Thank you. Panelists, can we get your views on that? Emma, maybe?
All right. I totally understand that. And of course, I think it needs to start as well. I think Lauren was talking about the mismatch of the skills we're getting and actually of the needs in the labor market. So that there needs to be a match. Like I said, the education curriculum is under review. However, at this point, I think vocational training centers, as much as at the current moment are not seen as, sort of like employment creators or whatever, I think they do a lot of times equip people with the skills to even employ other people. It's just a stance of actually getting skilled people to teach the skills. And this is what Faith was talking about, bringing people to sort of impart the skills that are probably not available for anyone to teach in the country, and then match them with the labor needs that exist in the labor market.
Thanks, Emma. Anyone else? Okay, just a reminder, the more you speak or you address your question, the longer it takes for them to get on. So if you want us to tackle more questions, please be precise and exact, and let's get this on with. Can you please give us your question? I will come to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Akisha Dresser from St. George's. My question to the panel is, does the Namibian Youth Fund also give that fund to the uneducated, the unemployed, or is it mostly for the urbanized and the taxpayers and the school goers?
Thank you. We'll have another, that lady there with the red. Can you please stand up, please, ma'am? She did have her hand up. They're bringing your mic behind you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think I've got a question for the panel, so to speak. I just want to know whether this audience is aware that we have a water crisis that could leave us without water as from August this year. There isn't any provision for that in the budget. The other thing is with a crisis of poverty in our country, and people are going to start dying, I think it seems as if it's got to go to an international level first before notice is taken that we've run out of resources and people are dying of poverty. The other thing that I would like to mention is that we've got approximately 40% of the youth in this country, which is almost, and it is almost impossible, in fact it is impossible to accommodate those in day-to-day 9-to-5 jobs in an employment situation. So from my point of view, from my perspective, the education system needs to be redesigned completely to empower people to do their own thing.
Thank you. Can you take the mic there? Can you just please give it to him? Because I think that was more of a statement. So the second question.
My question is just about critical skill development. I think she mentioned it, Lauren mentioned it, that lady there mentioned it, and Nicole there mentioned it.
Question.
Yeah, they said it's in terms of the relaxation of the visa requirements for people with critical skills, what's being done to make sure that when they come in, they don't just do the job that they are here to do, they actually impart those skills on a Namibian who's going to stay here, who was educated here, and so that when they leave, that person can take over. And then another thing is, with all these plans that are being put in place, our current president is only standing for 5 years. What happens when a new guy is elected in his term? We're a democratic country, so he could be replaced in 5 years. What does the plan say about making sure that the next guy who takes over carries it on with the plan and not just discards it and comes up with a new one?
Thank you. Can we please have your thoughts on the first question, the lady from St. George's, as well as this gentleman here, and maybe comment on the recommendations? Panelists?
Sure. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'll just do in reverse order. So will the next government just decide to say, stuff this, we'll just do a whole new plan? Luckily, the Harambee period is set until about 2020, so most of these things should be mostly done by then, or they should be far enough under construction that only a very, very silly government would say, this road is halfway done, we're going to stop doing this now. So it's intended to be quite focused in terms of its goals and deadlines, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. I think I'll leave my colleagues to speak about the issue of education because they have a lot more to say on that. But we also do need to include, yes, not just the urban youth. We need to talk about the rural youth, decentralization, etc. And you'll note that some of the pillars do talk about specific job programs for youth in the region. So each region is supposed to set up certain enterprises giving jobs directly, and hopefully that can flower into something more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I think just to address your question about the allowing critical skills into the country, those visa requirements, you have to, I'm not exactly sure how it would work, but I think as an employer, you wanting to bring foreign skills into the country, you would have to state specifically that, yes, you have sort of training programs and structures in place and actually show for that, so that it can be, so that you can prove that the skills transfer is taking place. Technically, I'm not sure exactly how they would follow through with it, but as Max mentioned, you know, the monitoring and evaluation in the plan is quite prominent. So I think they would ensure that that is properly recorded.
Thank you, Lauren. I think the lady at the back's question was still not addressed, of the funding. Okay, moving along.
Can we get the question
Where's the
again?
mic right now as it stands? Okay. We have a few questions from upstairs. Can we please have that young man in the middle?
Hi, good day. I'm from Windhoek High School, and we have a few questions concerning free education. With all the previous people who have spoken about education, how important education is for the young people in Namibia. Our question is, how can schools uphold the quality of the education they're providing to young children in our country when schools don't get enough funding from the government to pay teachers and extra activities to benefit the children?
Thank you. Can we have a second question? Okay, the second... Excuse me?
Can I just continue on what he said? We're like a two-part question answer. Question asker.
Okay.
My name is David and I'm the junior mayor of the city of Windhoek. And just to continue on what Gus said, is that the schools don't receive money to renovate and to keep the condition of the schools good. And we also talked today about that children do not have sanitation toilets even. And how can that be done without their schools receiving money? And we also know that schools have budgets to be able to give the children the great education that they deserve and that they need, but they cannot reach these budgets because they simply do not receive enough money. Thank you.
Okay, nice statement. Panelists, do you want to answer the questions that the gentleman posed before we go off to that side in the back and the gentleman here in front?
Yeah.
Emma?
Maybe we can give it to Vincent.
Sorry, Vincent?
Yeah, I think on education, money is always the factor. The reality is Namibia is a very wealthy country. We have an abundance of natural resources from uranium, zinc, diamonds. We have a coastline running more than 700 miles. So the resources are there to fund education. I guess it's a question of priorities, where they are. For example, take the 2.4 billion that is being planned, envisaged to build a parliament. That is enough to fund free tertiary education for 5 years. So I think it's a matter of priorities. The funds are there. That is definite, and it's proven. But I think it's just a matter of priorities and our leaders. And I think that is where we come in to question our leaders.
Thank you, Vincent.
I just want to add to that it's understandable the frustration that once school fees get eliminated, schools are under a lot of stress to accommodate for all learners. But surely the alternative cannot be to reinstitute school fees, because then what we're basically saying is we have to exclude the poorest people so that those of us who can afford school fees can get good education. That cannot be a model for the future for Namibia. We have to find a way to get good education to everyone. And yeah, if that means we have to cut out some other items from the budget and put that money towards education, then we have to do that.
Thank you, Max. There's a gentleman there in the back. I think he already has a mic.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Sound. Yeah, I think it's on.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Silent Burgess, Deputy Head of the American African High School. My question is based on Emma. Emma asked us about what research are we doing to know the Harambee Plan. And that is, because the Harambee Plan is directed to us, what is the government doing for the youth? Like, for instance, at my school, why do they not print copies to the schools and distribute to the schools and let the schools debate the Harambee Plan with the learners at school and make some sort of committee in every type of school and to come together and debate more about the Harambee Plan? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that recommendation. This man here has had his hand. Can you just please stand up? Please, just a reminder, I think we can just quickly go through our statements and, like I said before, questions quick and fast.
Good day, Namibia.
Good day.
I really love Namibia. My question is, will we really eradicate poverty if alcohol is a big problem in Namibia? And if we have plenty of resources, but we don't use them?
Thank you for that question. Yeah. Can we have the mic come through this side, please? I think this gentleman here wants to ask a question as well as this man here. Panelists, would you like to dwell onto that question before we go on to the next?
Yes, I just want to touch a little bit on the gentleman from the deputy head boy, speaking about how this plan should get in schools. I think also very important, we don't have constitutions in our schools. If we start with actually getting the document to the students, and then obviously we'd have participation. So I think that is a recommendation we should all take back to our schools and demand for the plan and things like the constitution. But I think the gentleman now with the eradication of poverty, I think our president is very, very clear and explicit that he doesn't want to reduce poverty. He absolutely wants to eradicate it. He wants it gone. And obviously things like alcohol abuse do play as a factor, but we cannot leave that in the hands of government. It's our communities, it's us. We need to change. If there's a shabin next door and it's disturbing you when you need to learn or the activities, you need to find a way to shut it down or whatever, but it's taking this into your own hands.
Thank you, Emma. Anyone of the panelists want to continue?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to put government a bit on the spot here because we asked them for a couple of hundred of copies of the plan to give to you all today, and the ministry said that they unfortunately couldn't give us that many copies. So what I would recommend for all of you to do is just give them a call this afternoon and ask them if they can provide you with a copy.
Yeah, thank you. Moving on, before we continue with the question.
I'm not done.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. As for the alcohol issue, I think it's maybe a bit the other way around. It's not that alcohol causes poverty. I think if we eradicate the poverty issue, we're going to see a large reduction in all of the ills, public health issues such as addiction, crime, all of those issues. So if we can just get people up on their feet, I think that those issues, and get clinics working, those issues will be a lot reduced.
Thank you, Max. Before we continue with the questions this side, we have a question from Twitter, and it's coming from Agrish. And he or she is asking, how will the food bank alleviate poverty, inequality, starvation, and unemployment among the marginalized Namibians to sustain their lives? How is this economically viable and self-sustaining? Lauren, would you like to touch on it?
Yeah, well, I think to me that's the answer is pretty straightforward. If you have 3 meals in your stomach every day, you're able to function as a human being. You're able, obviously, your thought processes are clearer. You have that sustenance to be able to move forward in life. If you're malnourished, if you're starving, you cannot make. There's no ways that you can make those choices.
Yeah. Can we have this gentleman please give his question?
Good day. Good day, everyone. My name is Freddy. I'm from Delta. I just have comments to do and questions. Okay, majority in rural areas have no access to ablution facilities, and when nature calls, they use bushes. Namibia is at third position internationally when it comes to suicide crisis. Rape in Namibia is at a figuration rate of 43% on scale and 31% on weekly basis. More than 300 Namibians are murdered during the past 6 years in crime activity. Prostitution Act of 1980 is still prohibited, meaning women are still the source and delegation of being sex workers. Namibia in the SADC region is at a profession rate of 33% when it comes to gender-based violence and 15% when it comes to teenage pregnancy in the country. What are the general relegation better from we, the youth, and the leaders to address this crisis in Namibia? That's my question now.
Thank you. Could you just pass the microphone to that gentleman before we continue? Would you like to comment on anything?
Could the gentleman repeat the question?
Yeah.
Can you not summarize?
Could you just repeat your question? The panelists didn't quite hear you. No, just give it the mic back. He'll give it back to you. No, the gentleman with the Adidas T-shirt. Could you just repeat your question? Just the last.
In summary.
All right. Based on the youth, what are the general relegation better from we, the youth, and the leaders to address this crisis in Namibia?
Okay, so that's over to all the youth.
Did you get that?
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Vijay. I'm from University of Namibia. Okay, I just wanted to make a few comments and then questions, like opinions.
Just one.
All right, okay. There's somebody asked now, what we can contribute as youth to this Harambee Plan. You know, what you are here is, of course, is a contribution, but what you have to do is now, you do whatever is given to you as good. When you study well, stop falling pregnant before 18, right? Don't party too much and drink alcohol is a lifestyle, and then you follow that kind of funny lifestyle. Avoid all these things. Prepare yourself for your Harambee, whatever they are doing it now. You will be able to fit in there, right? So I'm seeing a lot of youngsters at university who are coming there and they repent after some time. Oh, I should have not have done that. I should not have done that. Okay. So now try to avoid all those influences from the society. Okay. There are a lot of stupidity around the society. You don't have to be influenced by it. Okay. That's it. Okay. When it is stupid, it stays stupid. The next thing is, in my opinion, food bank is a very flawed plan. It's a very flawed plan. You are now creating more beggars in this country. Okay. So in my view, I would say rather, you try to bring in a public distribution system, rationing system, where you sell food in a subsidized rate. So now I'm coming from India, we have lots of poor people. So in India, we have a public distribution system, a rationing system in my state. So what they do now is every month, the people can go and buy certain items that are being sold in these ration shops. Like for example, our staple food is rice, and then certain cereals, certain oil and other stuffs. You can get it in a much cheaper rate. If a rice is being sold 1 kg like 20 rupees in India, in the shops, they will sell it in 2 or 3 rupees. So it's a subsidized rate, the government takes care of that, okay? So that's a system you must bring in. So you pay for everything that you earn, you don't get it for free. That is a bad attitude and mentality we are giving to the youth people by giving things. No, don't do that.
Thank you so much. Moving on, we have more of a statement actually, and that's coming from Facebook, from Fanzo Alexander Ngoma. And he says, don't sit there waiting for a plate to come on your table. Go out there and start a small business. Let's not only focus on the government to provide us with all our needs. If he, she can do it, why not? Instead of waiting too long to do something big, do plenty of small work. It brings better results because a river is always formed by drops.
Can I just, Martha,
yes.
can I just respond quickly? Yeah. I just want to, audio? Can you hear me? Yeah. I just want to push back on some of those comments that the gentleman made about how the youth need to stop partying and stop having children, because I think that's victim blaming, if not anything else, to suggest that this is all our fault that we're not behaving properly. Most young people I know work really hard, are really ambitious, and are doing their best in life. And it's not their fault that they're getting pregnant. Maybe it's because the education system is failing them and not educating them about teenage pregnancy. So laying the problems that we find ourselves at our feet when we are still just a couple of years old and we haven't had a chance to address them yet, I think is too harsh and putting the blame on the wrong people.
Thank you so much. We have one question on the stage, as it appears, and we'll come back to the middle.
Yes, thank you. My name is Herman Munganya. I'm from 25 Contractors. 25 Contractors is a company which was brought together in the Vocational Training Center in the Road to Poverty Eradication campaign, which we launched to provide employment to the youth. So with this, I just have a few questions here, starting with the schools. We are talking about schools that are being electrified, and we had a research of the school chairs and plumbing jobs that are around schools that are not properly maintained. But who is attending to this if they're just being electrified? Who's attending to the toilets that are full of water every time if it's not part of the plan? The second question is food banks being built. There is no building for the food bank. What we as the 25 contractors are doing, we are offering low-cost services to the general public. With this, is that with these low-cost services, we then...
I think that's not I think the question.
But okay, sorry.
Please be precise, please.
Yeah, okay. For me to be precise, you'll have to understand what we are doing. Okay. Sorry, yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay, but let me just get to my question. Do we have any part of the government that's regulating the youth, what the youth is doing? Or do we say that let the youth do that, but inside the offices, people are busy rejecting the proposals that are being brought forward by the youth? This is my question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can we have have the mic in the middle here? Guys, I need to give people opportunity, hey? I've been on this side for a while. Let us just please go to this lady with the red, please. And please, questions.
Hi, my name is Chanel. My question is around the sustainability of the endeavors that have been mentioned. If we speak about a food bank, for instance, do we look at the interconnectivity of what is in the ecosystem around it? So if you want to have a food bank, where is this food coming from? Do we look at the entire value chain to say, can we empower a community to sustainably produce their food and therefore have it go on beyond Harambee when its term ends?
Thank you.
All right. The question from the gentleman on education in terms of who monitors this and who's going to build schools and whatnot, it's actually something I thought I wouldn't have to come to, but I realized when I was reading this HPP, you did see I mentioned that it's not mentioned anywhere that schools must be built, for number one, and dilapidated schools must be obviously renovated. Now you see what happens with the Harambee Plan. As much as we say that the Harambee Plan does not replace the existing documents, NDP4, NDP3, it's obvious that it has become something similar to the national anthem. There's already boards that are named Harambee, taxi drivers, Harambee transport. So what happens now is with the Harambee Plan, the way it's structured is that every task in it is, if you see on the side, it has a champion and the responsible line ministry. Now, unfortunately, I noticed that in the whole Harambee Plan, the Minister of Education, Basic Education, is not championing anything, is not mentioned anywhere, not once in the plan. So what are we saying this may lead to? It may lead to a minister taking a laissez-faire approach, sitting back saying, oh well, until 2020, I'm not mentioned anyway, I'm not going to be required to report for anything. So I think it's a very serious concern and that needs to be looked at in terms of the monitoring and evaluation. If I was also a minister and I'm not in any way mentioned in this plan, I'm going to sit back and relax. So I think that is something we need to seriously look at also.
Thank you, Vincent.
I just want to address quickly an issue that's been mentioned a couple times but we haven't responded about rural sanitation and toilets and things in rural areas. If you check on page 82, Harambee Plan says there'll be 50,000 rural toilets by the end of the Harambee period, and there'll be no more bucket system by the end of next year. So check at the end of next year, ask around whether that's happened or not, but that's what's in the plan.
Thank you. Lauren, do you want to say something?
Yeah. Just with regard to the sustainability of food banks, in the plan it says that it will actually, for those food banks, it will gather unemployed youth on the streets and create committees out of those to actually run and operate those food banks. So I think in that regard, you know, they are from a employment aspect, you know, they are empowering the community to actually, you know, go and run those food banks. So
thank you, Lauren. Just to take to Twitter again, another statement, and this one's coming from Johnny Shikongo, and he says classes are fully packed and some kids end up failing because resources are limited, but yet apparently hashtag no one left out and hashtag YONAM.
Martha, can I also just add something on the sustainability? With the sustainability of the food banks and any other target that obviously the plan wants to tackle, I think it comes to the point where there are so many cross-cutting issues that need to be addressed for that final result to come about. It's like Lauren was talking about, like a community that regulates the food banks, but then also looking at the effects of climate change and drought. What is actually happening to allow that farmers get the support they need to actually produce locally produced food that would probably be cheaper than the food that we constantly import from South Africa. So there's so many cross-cutting issues that need to be addressed, and all these documents that exist in different line ministries need to sort of correspond to the plan and the proposed NDP 4 and 5 to ensure that everything is met and that everything actually happens. So I think it's just a matter of coordination between the different stakeholders.
Thank you, Emma. We literally have less than 5 minutes, so the lady there with the mic will answer. And the last question will go to this lady here in the blue. I'm sorry, we can't accommodate everyone. Can you please? ask your question.
Good day, my name is Tama McKenzie. I'm from Delta Secondary School. And I think the Harambee Plan is a portable plan, but there are a little bit of major flaws in it. Firstly, I want to address the issue of, funds for the youth and all these things. The SME Bank requires you to have land and property as something you can fall back on to start your business. Now, what about our credible ideas that can make a change and enforce this Harambee Plan that needs to be instituted? What about our ideas that need to be used and catered for? How are we going to use the land of our parents as subsidies for what we want to introduce that is currently not available for the youth? And the second thing is that if you look at the pages of the National Youth Council, if you look at all these pages, there's no platform for the youth to become directly involved. I'm not talking about just doing your part back at home and studying and doing all these things. I'm talking about pages in National Youth Week, which we were supposed to celebrate as schools and as the youth, was not enforced and it was not catered for by the Namibian government. Why is this the case in Namibia?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lady in Blue. Panelists, do you have anything to say?
The lady in blue?
No, the lady in the blue, she's receiving her mic.
Yes, I just want to touch on what she said. Clearly, of course, there isn't a lot of, that communication for young people to sort of get the opportunity to start a business. And of course, things like collateral, like you spoke about. But I know I got a response from the Office of the President that obviously the National Youth Policy is under review and there's going to be a baseline study to see how to ensure that young people get into the mainstream of the economy. But there's also a new policy being proposed under this plan, such as the National Youth Entrepreneurship Policy that will tackle some of these issues, as well as a National Economic Informal Policy that will actually allow people or young people that, the average young Namibian selling tomato sauce or onions on the side of the road, and how they can be mainstreamed in the formal economy and have them be competitive. I think it's just a matter of us, when the consultation comes for actually to see what is happening or what is being put in these policies, to contribute on how to ensure that there is a lot of participation of young people in entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Anyone else before we go to the last question?
Sorry.
Any other one? Okay, can we have the last question, please?
It's on that side.
Can we please have the last question? Thank you.
Good day, everybody. My name is Medzini Kashwawa from St. Thomas High School. My question is personally based on the social progression. Especially for the people that are in the rural areas, how do you plan on getting this information to them? Because they don't have access to any television, newspapers, or any type of that. So how do you plan on getting this information to them? And the other question is, what's the difference between this Harambee Prosperity Plan and Vision 2030? What's the main plan of having it if the first one isn't progressing anyway?
Thank you. Panelists?
Yeah, well, government will have to find a way of getting this out to people out there. In a couple of months' time, the plan says they'll have a new information strategy, new communication strategy. So that will be the time for them to push it out, maybe through the radio. But ask your friends in the regions, are they hearing about this stuff? See if it happens, and if not, again, call the government and say, where's this information? They say they're going to provide it, so just ask them. There's nothing wrong with that. It's your right to demand that. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I think there's also a lot of difference spoken about and how this plan is sort of complementary to Vision 2030, to Agenda 2063, and all those other plans that our governments have signed up to. So this plan sort of summarizes all those plans that we have signed onto, and then sort of gives that roadmap, that clear roadmap on how this can be tangible results. But I think obviously the previous plans do have their mishaps and their obstacles, but I think this plan should be a learning factor from all those mishaps and try to accommodate all those things that the other plans didn't reach, and then sort of allow this plan to be the prosperity of all the others.
Thank you so much, panelists. The Q&A has unfortunately wrapped up. For those of you that still have more questions to ask, please stay behind for the youth paper reporters. They will be able to take your questions, and they'll be put in the newspaper possibly. Moving on with the program, we have now to ask the panelists to please give their 3-minute closing statements before we go into the vote of thanks and the refreshments as well. So can we start off with Vincent?
All right. Always on education. I believe that Namibia needs an educated population to spur its economic growth. So my sincere plea is, always will be, for government obviously to give realization to the principles of state policy as well as its constitutional mandates to ensure that we have an educated citizenry to take Namibia forward. And I also want to emphasize, and when I talk about education, I'm not only referring to formal education, I'm talking especially, and I hope that vocational education can also reach the level and general consideration of our tertiary institutions. Hopefully, maybe we can also get, once we have skilled citizens, we can also get rid of, you see, our government is faced with a serious sickness, tender syndrome. Everything goes out on tender, even just to build a small classroom, it goes out on tender. So we would want our own people to do that, and that is the long-term wish. So please go home and read the HPP with those 4 A's that are said in education, and ask yourself, and then maybe you can also become proactive and continue to discuss as we have been doing now. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent.
Okay, yeah, I think just to wrap up, I think a lot of, there seems to be a little bit of confusion as to how Harambee fits into the bigger picture. And while we've all touched on this, I think I'd just like to re-emphasize that Harambee is being used to leverage greater than the Vision 2030, NDP4, and soon to be NDP5. And it is using a flexible and consultative and engaging approach to do this, which leads me on to my next point to say that we as the youth, we've been recognized as a priority in this plan. And again, this has come up, this is a point that's come up through the discussions we've had today. We need to make sure that we're not left behind in any of the economic opportunities that this plan could potentially yield. We need to make sure that we remain up to speed of things, that we're knowledgeable, but also at the same time acknowledging and understanding the challenges that we're faced with. So yeah, just basically it's our responsibility to emancipate ourselves and make sure that we fully immerse ourselves in the process of achieving these targets and objectives.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, I'll just jump off of that. Everyone agrees who's read the plan that it's got some excellent objectives and that the ideas sound really great, and if we can achieve all of them, we'll be in a really good position in the next 20 years. The question is, will there be implementation? And the President himself has said that this is the year of implementation. So as the panelists have said, let's just make sure that there is implementation. Let's read the list of goals at the end, see if it happens, and if not, you know, ask the media, ask the politicians what's happening here. Once we get the implementation done, it's really going to be good. And again, this plan is for us. We're going to be around when it comes to fruition. So yeah, it's all on us.
Thank you, Max.
My departing words would just be that they say knowledge is power. If we have the knowledge on how to improve our lives and improve the lives of our fellow countrymen, already we have taken that first step to empower ourselves with the tools to hold those accountable and make our lives better. So I think as young people, we need to be more proactive. Of course, there would be blame. The poem was talking about fun. You know, we have a lot of issues we need to sort ourselves out with. But I think if we can really take ourselves seriously and say that, listen, we want this done and this done, and we want the participation to be there for us to be involved, and then we can allow more situations where we can have this plan work and any other plans that our government might come up with. So we just need to be more proactive and let us acquaint ourselves with information.
Thank you, Emma. Just a reminder as well to the studio audience and the viewers as well, streaming live, that this event was proudly brought to you by the Namibian Hans Seidel Foundation, the Institute for Public Policy Research, the Embassy of Finland, and proudly sponsored by Paratus Telecom as well as Warehouse Theatre. Moving on with the program, we have Miss Lucia Kamati from Hans Seidel Foundation, the project officer that will come through and give a vote of thanks. Lucia Kamati, please give her a hand of applause.
Lucia, be ready.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, a very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Lucia Kamati and I'm the project officer at the Hans Seidel Foundation. It's my privilege to stand here on behalf of the hosting organizations to deliver the vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank you, each and every one of you, for coming here today and to join us on this discussion on Harambee perspective. I hope you all, take something to get home for us to go read the plan and also just to learn more about it. First of all, I would also like to thank our panelists here for taking out their time and really just join us today. First of all, I would like to start thanking Emma Theophilis for her explanation from the social progression pillar, as well as Roland Davidson, explaining, especially also for her bringing up the water issue, because it's something that really is facing us here in Namibia. Thank you so much. Next as well, as a researcher, because we don't only need just words, because also we want something from a research perspective. And as well as Vincent, also for just placing us and also to tell us that we can all work together as students and learners and to read the 4 A's that he also illustrated in his perspective and also in his views. We are all inspired by your words. I always say that the most resourceful people of Namibia are the youth, because we constitute like actually 60% of the population here in Namibia. And today I have been reassured by this, actually just going through on Twitter, seeing your comments as well as your questions here, also you questioning our panelists here and also just giving your comments. If I may quote an important person who always had inspiring messages, I'm actually talking about the late former President of the United States, Mr. Kennedy, John Kennedy, who once said that the future prospects of any nation can be directly measured by the present prospects of its youth. Through this message, it rings when we speak about Harambee, because we must ensure that our government ensures the prospects of its youth, which is us, and implements the strategies that they have outlined in the plan itself, which has to be equally, effectively, and correctly, because we are the prospects of this nation. And all of us, you being here and participating in this discussion, also just to contribute your views and also your perspective towards and to make this event a success, it shows that you are somebody who's actively engaged in the welfare, your own welfare, as well as the welfare of the country. For those of you who doesn't know, actually the Hans Seiler Foundation, we are a German political foundation, and we've been in Namibia now for over 40 years. And our main aim is simply to promote civic education, public discourse, environmental awareness in Namibia. And together with our house, actually our partners in the House of Democracy, we are dedicated to positively contribute political, social, and economical stable in Namibia, and you are all invited to play a vital part in this. We are also happy, as the Hans Seiler Foundation, to mention our obligation to Namibian youth, as we give opportunities to Namibian students all year and offering internships and scholarships to study abroad. Perhaps you can also check out our website to check out some opportunities with us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the event like this cannot just happen overnight. Actually, the wheels started rolling a month ago, and we have been actually blessed to be backed up by a team, a well-motivated team. And here we're speaking of the Namibian newspaper, especially Jonathan and Kawela. And also not to forget IPPR, Mr. Graham, Nangola Shiavali, and Martha Nangolo, because they know their job and well result-oriented. And without them, we can't be here today. And I also like to extend the vote of thanks to Paratus Telecom for providing us with Wi-Fi, and so that we can air our thoughts on social medias and also just to comment on how we feel about Harambee Plan. Warehouse Theatre, I also don't want to forget you. Thank you for providing us with this beautiful venue so that we can be here today. I cannot thank everyone who was involved in this and also just taking out their time in their comfort zones and also their willingness to take the completion of this task. I know as youth and as I'm a youth, we are faced with a lot of difficulties in Namibia, which are challenging, and we are challenged all the time. But and sometimes we criticize. I'm not saying criticism is bad. Sometimes we can criticize, but we should also have solutions. Okay, the president came up with a Harambee Prosperity Plan, but how can all be united to work towards it? And if we think that it's not working, how can we make a difference towards it? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like just to also, I don't know if it's Savannah Afro is next. And also, we also have some pizzas and also some puddings out there. Thank you.
Does that mean we're done?
Okay, are we done?
Thank you so much to Lucia for giving the vote of thanks, and to our viewers that are with us through the live stream. Thank you for being with us and connecting with us during this event. A very good bye to you, and for the audio, for the audience, the studio audience, there is some refreshments, which is a pizza and still some music, apparently, according to Lucia. So please do enjoy. Thank you so much.